What's inside the Makita framing header? What's inside the Makita framing header?
If you want to see my full video of this, it's up in the top corner and down in the description. Now, who wants to see inside this thing? Let's open her up. There's another way to make it even lighter. Let's just first have a look here. 4.7 kgs. I can't remember what it was in pounds. Over 10 pounds. What's that? About 4 pounds, something like that. So 4.7. That's the bare tool. Chuck on a battery. 620. We're getting up there. And then 220 for some nails. So we're coming in at over 5.5 kgs. That is heavy. 5.5 kgs to use it. So if we want to make it just a little bit lighter, we can by adding one of these. So this thing weighs around 170, as you can see. So that's now what, 450 grams lighter than having the battery on it. It's a nice looking clamshell. It's all polycarbonate, apart from the TPE overmolding, of course, on the outside, and this TPE bumper here. This bumper helps where the battery connects, as do these ones that are on the side of the battery connection as well. There's quite a lot of cushioning going on with this. 4 bumpers around the side and that one front as well. It just sort of fairly loosely sits in there. Got an Omron switch as usual for Makita. Board sitting right above the battery, completely covered of course, can't see anything going on in there. We've got a lot of ferrite going on here. We have a PA6 glass fiber 30% battery cover there, motor cover I should say. We look around here, we've got a little switch here, which it looks to be your actuation switch, so hasn't got any nails in it, so it's not going fully down. If you saw my video yesterday about how long the tool stays active after the tip has been actuated, then you'll be interested in this little piece here. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you go to fire a nail gun, you put the tip down and it'll let you fire for a certain length of time before it cuts out. Now, the Hikoki one, it's only a few seconds, people get annoyed with it. It's annoyed me a few times. If you go to do a thing, you tap your bit of wood into place and then you pull the trigger and it doesn't go and it's like, ah fuck, it's above your head and it all gets awkward and you're like, friggin' thing. The Milwaukee lasts considerably longer, but we want to know how long does the Makita last. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Won't fire. I'll go to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When the tip is depressed, the depth gauge here has a rod in the center of it, which comes up, pushes this bit of metal, and that tweaks that little switch. Simple as that. If I remove this piece of metal and we depress the tip and pull the trigger, it is turned on. Nothing happens. Light comes on, but doesn't fire. So this is the little switch that tells the tool that the tip has been depressed enough to fire it. If I remove this, I think I'll be able to take the whole guts out of it. I can have a better look at some things. The motor's real wobbly, just sort of sitting in there. Not really attached. My theory of undoing that screw didn't work either. Might have to take the whole magazine off. After I've removed the magazine, you'll be able to see the hole for where the other magazine goes. The 20 to 22 degree one. This is the 30 to 34 degree one. With a very long screw. Right. Magazine out of the way, we can see that extra screw there. So the thread there is for this one, the 30 to 34, and if you get the 20 to 22, it'll be lower down, of course, and screwed into that hole there. Now that we've got that off, we should be able to get the rest of it out. Voila. Like I thought, that motor's not really connected to anything. It's just shoved in there and sitting there. And here is our main unit. This is the money end. Once you flip it over like that, you see the air compressor part actually looks a lot smaller than what it looked like when we first opened it up. So basically how this works, the motor in the back here will drive the pin or the striker back up into what is the cylinder here, the piston of the thing. So up it goes, and then you pull the trigger and it releases it and fires it down, and then the motor pumps it back up and just keeps pushing that up, compressing the air. You pull the trigger, down it goes, motor pushes it back up. What else have we got going on here? This is just some connectors that are protected because all of Makita tools, they're usually fairly easily serviceable because you can unclip any module and replace it rather than having to replace the whole thing in one big chunk like you have to with certain other brands like Milwaukee, for instance. So there's a couple of connectors there, there's that connector there that I've taken off. Makes it a little bit easier than when it's all one big thing. But, you know, fairly good looking unit. Cables are all nicely protected there. But yeah, it's Makita quality as you'd expect. If your tool isn't firing, when you open it up, check that first, because if that's popped out of place, then your trigger won't be able to be used, because when you actuate the tip, it won't be doing anything. So check that first. This here is our striker. You can see that shape that you will have seen in my full review, presumably, if you've watched it. It's sort of a channel shape. So it runs over that raised section there, that's why it's that sort of channel shape, sort of U shape. Already you can see quite a bit of filings and shit starting to build up from firing the nails, even though it hasn't been used much. So this is another area you always need to clean on nail guns because it jams up with shit. So how this works is, tool, this clips on to the tool where the battery would normally go, and the battery clips on the other end. You can now clip this on your belt, and your nailer is 450 grams lighter. Is that enough to make it worthwhile having this annoying lead? It means you can't put the tool down on the ground. If you've got the battery hooked onto you, you'd have to take that off as well. So is it worth it? Brings it down to just over 5 kgs. What do you reckon? Any good? Does it actually work though? We better check that, eh? Ooh, nice sparks. Okay, works no problem. So you have to take the clamshell off, but once you have taken off one half of the clamshell, you can just unscrew this with a number 4 Allen key, and then you'll screw in an adapter like the Hikoki one, presumably. I haven't got the Hikoki one to test it, and I don't want to remove that in case I fuck something and end up releasing some of the pressure because I haven't got the adapter to fill it back up again. But presumably Makita will sell those at some point if they don't already, just like they sell all the parts for all their stuff. So you'll be able to fill it up from home if you do have an issue, or it'll be pretty easy for them to fill it up as well. Not quite as easy as the Hikoki / Metabo HPT / Hitachi / Rigid AG Ryobi. We don't have to pull the clamshell right off, but easier than the Milwaukee. They could have just easily had a piece here that came off with 1 or 2 screws that exposed that valve area, but for whatever reason they've decided not to. Try it with the 14.4 volt batteries. I'm curious to see if they will actually fire this thing. I'm pretty sure it will. Now why would they? Well, because the 18 volt and the 14.4 volt are both LXT batteries. They have the same connection system. This is a 14.4 volt battery which only has 4 cells in it. That's right. An 18 volt has to have at least 5. This is 1 less, hence why it's like a stubby 18 volt battery. Basically, like I said, LXT batteries. So the system's the same, just a different voltage. and it comes in at 296, so just under 300 grams, so just under half of one of those and less than half the size. But does it fire the actual nailer? Let's take a wee look-see here. First of all, does it fit on the nailer? Well, I'm pretty confident it will. There we go. It's on the nailer. What do you reckon? Place your bets. Let's go. Oh, it's only fired one. Wow, and that's a freshly charged battery too. Let's take it off and stick it back on, see if it'll go. Might not have had the power to push the cylinder back. It works, but you only get one fire. Problem with that battery is it's going to say it's below voltage much earlier than an 18 volt battery. Like the tool might say only run at above 14 volts. Once an 18 volt battery drops below that, the tool won't work. Put on a 14 volt battery, you're right on that limit. So there you go. It does work as long as you only want to shoot one nail. You might get away with a few more if you have a bigger 14.4 volt battery. This is the smallest one. It's only 1.5 amp hours. It's tiny. You can of course get 3 amp hour ones which are double the size, and 6 amp hour ones which are double the physical size. 8 cells in them, which would probably do much better. But I was just trying to see if it would work. Clearly works, but it's that one's not going to be much chop. But it would have been nice to get a few grams off the tool with a smaller battery. Heatsink on the bottom of the main board, and we've got cushioning all around that also. Like I said before, ferrite cores, there's a few of those kicking about the place. We've got a bit of dampening up here as well, both sides. It's pretty tight that, but just to help a little bit of the vibration going through into your arm. I'm just weighing it now without the magazine, 3.9 kgs. Wow. So that's 800 grams for that. 780 grams. They've made a good solid magazine for this thing, and that's some of the reason why this thing is so darn heavy. Clamshell went back together nicely, as you'd expect from a Makita. I need to charge up my screwdriver. To do it old school. Right, the moment of truth, did I put it back together properly? That would be a resounding no. It is turned on. Arse. Trigger feels a little bit funny. There's our problem by the looks, like I said earlier. Always check that bit. It can't have been sitting quite right, and it looks like it's gotten bent even. Let's just check it's all heading in the right place. Must have popped out when I was trying to put this on. The clamshell must have knocked it when I flipped it or something. Who knows? Anyway, hopefully that's all it was. Turns out it was the trigger. When I put this back in, the spring was jamming somewhere in it. Yeah. Phew! Because I put it back together after fixing that and it still didn't work. But let's just put a battery on. We'll move that, and we'll I'll just show you it working before we put it back together. Boom. Some poor cat across the road just got shot. Right, third time lucky. Certainly hope so, else I'm going to look like a rat chump. All good. And is this worth it? If you want one of these adapters, if you want to try one out, they're not all that common, but take a look down in the description. You might have to get one from Japan. I'll put some links down there, and check out the full review and all of that, and I'll see you on another one soon. Cheers. These are the ones I fired after I got it back together. Somehow, the striker marks seem far less prevalent than beforehand. I don't know. If you are new here, welcome, but you have come in at the tail end.